of provocative approach. Well, the short form is it's the German form, it's LKW. I think Noni said it probably too. It's the empathetic carication of the problems that clients have. So we start to say, okay, the client comes with a problem, and we start to draw pictures that are very, very over exaggerated and humorous about this problem, in order that the client can laugh about their own problems. So it's not, we don't laugh at the client, and we are not cynical, and we are not aggressive, but we try to make it so absurd that the client can see it from the outside and think, oh wow, what do I do there? And starts to laugh. And that's very good, because then it's relaxing, and the goal, well, and then that's what we do verbally, and non-verbally we are very, very positive, and we trust in the client that he or she can get out of their problems right away. And if we think the client is weak, then we shouldn't get provocative, because then it gets aggressive and it gets cynical, and it's not what we want to do, because then they shut off and they say, no, go away, leave me alone. So that's mainly the short form of this method. It's very complicated and very, it's not so easy to do in the first time, but that's our goal. And the love inside and the empathy is the most important thing with this approach. Yes. I started playing improv theater in 1998. And Noni, my mother, I think she met Frank Farrelly, the inventor of the provocative therapy, in the 80s too. And so I came to the Institute with Noni with the improv, and she did the provocative stuff. And then we noticed that the attitude behind it is completely the same. So you are very positive, you look for offers from the client and play with it. You are in the moment, you don't plan in the future. You play scenes sometimes in front of the client, and you get into figures and roles, and just to make the client, again, to make him laugh, make him or her laugh about her own problems. And because of this attitude that it was so similar, we decided to mix it in a seminar. That was, I think, 2001 was the first time we did improv or impro. I don't know, how do you say it in Poland? Improv or impro? So it's impro and prosa, provocative approach. It's in German, it's provokative Systemarbeit, provocative system work, we say. So we did this the first time, and we noticed it's very, very good to show this connection to people in the seminar, because it makes them more creative and more relaxed about all this when they start to do provocative therapy or provocative coaching, and they don't have any idea of improv. It's working, but it's sometimes very they're in the head, and they're very rational, and they try to be good, and they try to be clever, and they try to have a good provocative idea, and then they are stuck because they want to be so good that they get so much stress that they don't know anything anymore. So we noticed when we play improv with them, and then we do a little bit of provocative stuff again, and we mix this together. We have some exercises that combine it. So a provocative exercise where status is important, or where the inner attitude is important, or things like that, that it's much easier for them to get provocative, because they forget their stress. They just do something and say, oh, I'm good, great. I didn't think about my fear and anger, and I just do it. So we mix it a lot. And even if in the provocative approach seminars with only provocative stuff, we mix a little bit of improv sometimes, and we talk about it and say, please do the seminar too, because it helps that you get more relaxed and more creative with the provocative approach. Yeah, that's basically, yeah, what I do. I get a lot of feedback in the beginning before I do something, that they think, oh God, I have to act, I have to be on stage, and Jesus Christ, I don't know if I can do that. You are so creative, but I can't do this. And I said, come on, get on stage, do it. And it's not only for actors. I mean, it's just the principles behind improv are very different. It's basically to reduce your fear of being in front of people or with a client. And for example, there's this game, I think you know it, it's ABC. So one person, they tell a story in the ABC, and one person starts with a sentence starts with A, the next person says a sentence that starts with B, and then the first person says a sentence with C, and so on till they are at Z at the end of the alphabet. And then some story will develop, and they are so concentrated on focusing on, oh, what letter comes next, that they forget that they're on stage, and that they forget they have to be creative, because they don't have to be. They just do it. And then they say after that, oh, I can do it, great. And things like that. I mean, you get the focus away from the pressure of being good and being on stage. And Keith Johnstone, one of the most important inventors of improv theater, and we worked together with him for a long time, he always said, the basic thing to be creative is be average, be normal, bore the audience, and things like that. And people often think when creativity means I have to be very focused and I have to try very hard and very complicated, and that's bullshit, because you have to be simple. And that's the same with the provocative approach. If there's an offer from the client and you see it, you just look at it and you say something, a picture that comes into your mind about it or whatever, and you look, oh, does the client react, or doesn't he or she react? And if he or she doesn't, you do something else. And if he does, you go on with it. That's basically it. I mean, it sounds very simple now, but basically that's really it. And people are very, ashamed, or they say, no, I can't say that. And maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I have to be more creative. And I say, no, just be there, look at it, be aware, and play with it. That's basically it. And that's what improv is good for, these techniques, to teach the people to do that. In the private practice as a coach and as a trainer, I basically work in a provocative way. I combine it with improv, and I combine it with, we just did a seminar today online where I did it together with my husband and my musician. So we really play scenes in the coaching sometimes in front of the people. But I mean, you can't do this all the time, because usually I'm alone with the client, not three people, a pianist and everything around. It's great when I have it. I love it when it's there, but that's not normal. But the contents are basically really provocative. I always say that's my main thing, and I grew into it because of my mom and Frank Farrellly, which I can't do anything else, which is good for me because I've always done it. And I think it never gets boring. I've been doing this for about 20 years now already. And I think it's an adventure, because I never know what client shows up. I never know what he or she will say. It's always a risk for me, which makes it very, very attractive, because otherwise I think I would get bored if I do like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plan in the coaching, and that's it. So it's the provocative approach or improv is nothing for people who are scared, who want to know everything controlled until the end, like a plan, because it doesn't work. So that's basically what I do. And I do it in podcasts, I do it on stage, I do it in the coaching, I do it in seminars, and I try, it's an inner attitude for me. It's not a system or I don't know, a plan or so. It's just, I have this positive attitude inside me towards people with problems, without problems. And then I try to do it and try to help them with that. So that's what I do for ages now. I love it. Yeah. I think it's the provocative approach is very, how do I say it in English? It's not so like one way thing where you say, I learned this and then I do this, and the next step I do that, and then I do that, and then I do that. It doesn't work like that. It's very like this and that and that and that, and then I go there and I say, oh, there's a reaction. Okay, I go this way. And sometimes a client comes with a problem that he or she probably has told a lot of people without emotions. It's like a very, okay, here is my problem, but don't get into the detail because I don't want to change, and this is my problem, without emotions. I told it everybody, but that's what I want to show. And you can do that for an hour, but I think you don't get to the emotions and you don't get to any change. And so with the provocative approach, you just go right into it and you trigger emotions, and with these absurd pictures that you create and with these statements that you make, you don't ask a lot of questions in this provocative approach, which I think in the classical therapist or coaching ways you ask a lot of questions. And with questions, I think the clients can really hide away. They can slip away like an eel, like I always say, like an eel in the water. They just like, whoosh, whoosh. No. When you ask, but when you make statements and you say, oh, I think you're too old to change, very friendly, with this nonverbal positive attitude, then they have to differentiate by themselves. They have to say, oh no, I'm not too old, like a kid. No, I'm not. I can't do this. Like this resistance against their big mountains of stones that they put into their ways, and to get this one-way view, they can just say no, I'm stronger than you think, than I think. And then they say something like that. So I think that's the main difference, that you're not linear, you're very how is it in English, dislinear, or that's the most important thing, that you are aware and that you are really looking at the client. Even online, it's working very well. You watch him, you watch her, and you see, oh, there's a reaction. Okay, let's see where we go now. And then you say something, you make a statement, and then there comes a reaction. Then you go there, and then you go there. And this I love that. That's improv pure, pure improv. Exactly. I think that's the main. You don't have a plan. I think I don't know. I don't know if all the classical therapists, they don't all have plans. I mean, they're very aware too, and I don't want to make them say they are bad or so. Yeah, but I think it's just a different approach, and I think this can help too. And it's very important that you like your coach or therapist. I think that the person is very important too. It's not only the approach. And then you can do a psychoanalysis if you love your therapist and you need really someone to talk that doesn't interrupt you so much, then do that. I mean, everybody is different and everybody needs something else. I would be too impatient for that. Just not. I like to talk and I like to be active and pragmatic, and so I think I found the approach that is for me, is the best for me. Yeah. I think provocative approach is not aggressive at all. Nothing. It's the most empathetic approach that I have known. I think this is very empathetic, and it's always a misunderstanding that when you hear provocative, that people think, oh, this is aggressive. I just punch the client in the face and then he's better or she's better. And that's not it at all. It's this non-verbally very positive and trusting attitude that you have towards the client, because non-verbally, and then you can say everything. You can be very aggressive, but then it's not aggressive. You just get something out that you think the client thinks about it or might think about it, like the deepest, the most evil thoughts about their own problem, and you get them on the table. And if you have this attitude of you can get out of this yourself, just with this, you don't say it, you just think about it, but you say you can't, you're too stupid, you're too old, you're too blonde, too small, too tall, too fat, too thin, too whatever, and then you get this resistance against their big stones that they put in their way, but not against me. The resistance usually doesn't get against me. Only when I lose this positive, empathetic attitude. When I lose that, then they close up and they say, oh, go away. And I had this one time in the 20 years that I lost a client, but it was my fault, because she got so on my nerves. It was amazing. And I know they told me afterwards, after I said, okay, I think we shouldn't work together. They said, well, I'd understand you, because she always, wherever she goes, she has enemies. And I think, oh, great, she has a good power to make enemies around her. That's what was the only thing. So the contra indications when you shouldn't do it is only in yourself. It's not in the problem, because Frank Farrelly, he worked in psychotherapists, like in a mental hospital with really, really bad and worse and difficult cases. And he did the provocative approach. He invented it there, and he managed sometimes that people got out of the hospital because he worked with them. So you can do it with every problem, but the borders are inside yourself. So if you lose this empathetic attitude, that's one thing, then it doesn't work anymore. Or if you have the same problem like the client, it doesn't work either, because you just don't have any ideas. You're stuck in the same place. Or if it's too far away, if you just don't understand what the client talks about, then you can't do it either. Or if you have this attitude of, oh, this poor client, I have to protect this client. He's weak, or she's weak, and he probably cries if I get provocative. If you have this attitude, then you won't. There's no idea, because you think this client is weak. It's always this attitude: the client is strong and he can do it. It depends. Some people come to me, like one person, and says, well, I have a client, or I have a group of people in the business. They have this and that problem. I don't know how to work provocatively with them. Can you help me with some tips? Which I do sometimes, but I often say it's better if I get into this group and look what's happening, because it's very theoretically if you come to me and I should give you tips, like, and then they write it down and say, well, but I don't know if it works, because you are so in the moment and in the process, when you work provocatively, that it's better if I'm there and just be aware of what's going on there. So that's what I prefer. I sometimes do it, and they play me things from the clients, like on a tape, and they, oh, maybe what could I have said there, and that's good. Then you have a concrete topic, and you can collect some ideas. And then I always say, but then when you are with the client, forget this again. We just collect it now, and then you go to the client and you have it somewhere in your head, and maybe some idea is good at the moment, but if not, don't take it as a script, like write it down, go to the client and say, okay, now I do that, and now I do that. That doesn't work, because then you have a plan again, which doesn't work. But when we do supervision seminars with people who want to learn it and who want to deepen it, we often do it like that they play a role play. They are a client, they become a client that they have difficulties with, and another person from the seminar is kind of the provocative coach and tries to do a little session with him or her, and we film it. And after that, we watch the film and we say, okay, there you see the good attitude got lost, or here you could have said that and that maybe. And this is really helpful. This is the supervision we do in the seminars. And when I go to companies, when they say, come from outside and I have a team of 5-6 people, there are some problems. Can you please work with us for a day and see if we get the problems on the table, and you can just kind of kick us in the ass a little bit in a very humorous, provocative way. That's what I do too. So it's kind of 3 different things. Like one-to-one, they bring me a tape, or they say, I have this case, what can I do? Or in the seminar, we film it and we try to collect ideas, or I do it live in the companies. That's my kind of supervision stuff, what I do, yeah. I think it's always good when you get supervised. I always say also it's good to get supervision. It's good to, even if you are a professional coach or therapist, it's good to get some therapy or coaching yourself sometimes, because you never see everything from the outside yourself. I'm stuck too sometimes. I'm married, and we did coach, when we went to a coach too, sometimes we are stuck and we like, we go there and she looks from the outside. We have a good one now. Sometimes we do this. And I think a lot of professionals in this field, they think, oh no, I'm a professional. I can't get a coaching or a supervision because I'm the professional. But I think that's stupid, because nobody's perfect. And I think it's very important to get supervision in a provocative way, when you say, oh, I do this now for a while with clients, but now I think I need someone who has been doing it for longer and can help me maybe. Or if you have a personal problem, you go to a therapy or coaching or whatever. I think this is really And it's not bad. It's not shame. You don't have to be ashamed of it. I think I'm very open with this. So I think everybody should do that. Really watch and be aware of the reactions of the client, like all the time. Don't think of different things. Don't be try to have a plan to, and because then you are with yourself too, and you don't see the reaction anymore. Just open all the channels to the client like a big cloud, and then you sit there. And I notice this when I do live coachings and seminars, and there are 30, 40, 50 people watching, or maybe on a big convention, it's even more. I forget them because I'm really in this bubble, the client bubble, and the clients forget the audience very often too. They're very scared before, and then they're just here with me. And I get the feedback very often that they feel it, that I'm really there around them, and energetic. It's like I'm not hugging them all the time, but I'm really like this. And I think that's the most important thing. And this positive, trusting attitude that you always have to have when you work like that. Yeah. That's a good question, because I think humor is, when you hear the word, people have completely different associations with it. I think with the provocative approach, it's the ability to make that the client can laugh about his or her own problems. It's not laughing at them. It's not, we don't laugh anything away, because that's what we hear sometimes too. Oh yeah, then you laugh it away and then you do something real, like real therapy. No, we try to get relaxation and open-mindedness with the client, that he or she can really see his or her problem in a humorous way from the outside. And that's the humor. The client, we laugh together with the client about their problems, but the client should laugh a little bit more. If you as a coach laugh like hell and the client gets very quiet, then something went wrong. So the client should laugh about it. You can laugh with them, and sometimes it's crying too and stuff, but that's the goal. That's my definition of humor in this way. It's to laugh about your own shit. And that's the most difficult thing in the world. If you're stuck, you usually don't laugh. You are, oh, shit. And that's what we try to, well, that's the goal, because then relaxation starts and then it's much easier. And I often have clients who write me emails after a session, because directly after an hour, they often can't tell me what they do now, but like it's like a depot thing. It's 2 hours, 2 days later or a week later, they write me an email and say, well, I met this person that I had problems with again, and I had this picture that you created in the session in my head, and I had to laugh so much, and I couldn't be angry anymore. And I said, yes, that's good. Exactly. The attitude is the same. That's what I said in the beginning. You are in the moment, you inspire the other person, you play with the offers that come from the client or from the fellow player on stage. It's the same attitude. The contents are different. I mean, if you are doing improv scene, it's not therapy or coaching. It's fun, and well, but sometimes I like it if it's not only fun, if it gets a little bit deeper too. So it's kind of, but it's different. I mean, of course, when I have a single coaching with a person, it's not a show on stage, but the attitude behind it is the same, like the principles that are behind it. And that's one thing. And the other thing is I use it, it's very good for me because of my experience. I can really play scenes and people in the coachings. Sometimes I do if a person has a problem with, I had just had this today, she has had a problem with her boyfriend, an older woman who was he was too fat for her. He gets fatter and fatter, and I can't like that. She was really pissed off. And then I played like the grandchild of her, like a little baby. And I was looking like that. It was online. I was looking like that. And I was like, oh, he's so nice. But this big stomach, I get really scared and it has hair on it and stuff like that. You play it. And she was like, oh yeah, no, oh. She was standing outside. So you can like increase these pictures that you can describe to when you play it. And that's what helps me. I mean, when you can really go into roles and be, it's absurd when you do that. And you can really do it like a clown, like very big and absurd. And it has a a lot of effects on the clients when they see you playing it. And when I have a musician with me, I mean, he sometimes sings songs about it, which is, the clients sit there and like, oh, this music is like goosebumps. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's, you can do a lot more with music too, but not everybody has a musician all the time. So it's just an addition what you can do. Yeah. Well, I will do, of course, a little bit of basic provocative approach stuff, because I mean, maybe some people don't go to Noni's workshop and they don't have any idea. I always mix it a little. I do this in the beginning, and then we have created some exercises that combine the improv stuff with the provocative approach. It's, I don't know, we always do exercises like there's a client, there's a coach, a therapist, and there's an observer. And they do it in 3 or 4 people groups, and they do little bits of provocative or improv stuff to coach, to try this out, and then they get feedback, and then they come back and we answer questions. And I do live coachings also, like Noni does, provocative live coachings, where I put always like these role play stuff inside. I do a little bit, I mean, mainly I do the same stuff than Noni, but we are a little bit different because we are different people, different persons. And well, that's, so it's live coachings, it's exercises like that with the connection to improv, like status or inner attitude improv things, with little exercises before that they can play a little improv, and then I connect it to the provocative exercises. And of course we answer some more questions and about the provocative approach, about improv after the exercise. I always do exercises first, and then when the participants did it, they really tried it out, and then they notice, oh, this is hard and this is easy, and then they can ask questions. And I think this is the best way to learn it, to do it, and then after that to reflect, to think about it, and to ask it, and then do it again, and do there's something different, and ask again. So it's very interactive. They will be able to do and a lot of things, a lot of exercises in the workshop. So it's a combination, because you work in this 3 or 4 groups, you work with your own problems. So the clients, the participants should talk about real problems that they have. I mean, not like when they want to kill themselves the next day, I wouldn't use that, but some, like if your mother gets on your nerves, or your husband, or your kids, or something about yourself that you think, oh, I'm lazy, I have to do this, but I can't, and things like that, the problems that they really deal with at the moment. So this is the self thing that they probably get some advice from different therapists in the workshop, or coaches that they work with them, and they get some tools that they can use themselves with their clients or in a workshop, which I can give them. So they use this. So it's a combination, I think, about self-learning and getting tools to work with in your field when you go out of the workshop, and in your practice, or in your workshops, or in your whatever you do.